final talk of the evening. Just to say, if you do want one of these books, then come and see me later. They don't all have to go, but if you've got an interest in any of these actual topics, rather than just picking up a freebie book, then please do come and grab one. If not, we'll take it to the next meet up, which is fine. So yeah, final talk of the evening. Are we all good on the camera, Mark? Cool. This is Ben from SWEAGLE. He stepped in pretty much last minute after we wrapped ourselves up in not so the dates for the other speaker. So big thanks to Ben for that. But I'll let him introduce himself and SWEAGLE. Over to you, Ben. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you for having me. SWEAGLE officially in the UK is now 3 weeks old, or 3.5 weeks old. It's actually a Belgium-based company. It's been running for the last 18 months. I used to work for CA Technologies for the best part of 3 or 4 years, doing a lot of testing, test data management type stuff. A couple of guys that I work with very closely left, set up SWEAGLE, and here we are. So just been funded and looking to kind of expand and get people to see why we think it's so good. So the main reason that we're here is, or that I'm here I should say, is that we kind of would like you to have a look at it, give us some feedback. There's free trials and stuff that you're welcome to go and sign up for, which, if it does ask for names and details, it'll be me contacting you, so not somebody terrifying from sales. So let's talk about what SWEAGLE is. So it's a SaaS-based platform. There's an on-prem version for collecting and consolidating configuration data. So not just in the sense of sticking it inside a vault or inside a key store, but actually validating it, making sure that it's good quality, that it's secure. Conversational secrets and stuff is kind of a hot topic at the moment, wherever it seems to go. And I'm going to just in this session show you through kind of the problem as we see it and the solution in terms of SWEAGLE, and then try and give you a quick demo so you can actually see it and that sort of stuff. So generally speaking, when it comes to configuration data, it pretty much is everywhere. Sometimes it's managed by people, sometimes it's managed in key stores, sometimes, and it's in all different types of formats, right? So YAML, XML, properties files, INI files, you name it, there's a different version for it, and everything wants to consume something slightly different. And generally speaking, when you're trying to get something from one side of the house to the other side of the house, there's potentially relationships that sit between that, and complexity, chaos, all of that, that sort of stuff. This is kind of quite close to me in terms of testing and the problem of it works on my machine. It works on my machine. And you find out, after hours of debugging or reviewing that a version of a file wasn't updated and you never got it because you're on the sandbox or you're on the X or you're on the Y, and it can be a bit of a nightmare. So what does SWEAGLE do? So we actually essentially collect and consolidate each of those files and those different types into a graph-based data model. So where it makes sense. So not everything makes sense to go into SWEAGLE. Some things, maybe you've got some config data that's part of the code and is very static, and maybe it's okay where it is. But actually, maybe there are certain files types that change a lot, maybe to do with infrastructure, maybe to do with database settings, secrets, etc., that as a file are useful, but are more beneficial when you can actually start to work with it and interact with it. And also be sure that everyone's on the same version and running the same sort of stuff, so that there is a file version that helps us to terraform out bits and pieces. There is a file version or a current version that allows us to go and build our database structure or whatever it is that we're doing, or connection strings, etc., etc. So once it's in SWEAGLE, it has a data model, and as that data model, we then start to do some smarter things. So there was talk of key stores earlier. Once we've got it as a structured data model, we then start to validate it. We'll validate it for some simple stuff, like regular expression, to make sure there's no spelling mistakes, or you've not put in a particular value that you're not allowed to, or the passwords that you're using are not just in clear text format. Whatever kind of problem that has either caused you issues in the past or pain in the past, you say, look, somebody keeps putting in port 8080 and it clashes with another port, so we want to make sure that never happens again. SWEAGLE allows you to essentially validate that those things don't exist inside your configuration data. So validations will kick in and kick back to you to say, somebody's tried to put through this release into a testing environment, it's got these particular properties about it, and we don't like it, so we're going to stop it. or we're just going to tell you about it and we're not going to stop it, but at least you can then go and fix and rectify that problem. All the way through up to production, whereby you might have some slightly more secure rules or robust rules that actually do kind of block releases if we find something kind of major or critical that that data has that is going to cause you issues. Once we've got it in a good shape, or as a set of kind of snapshots for us, it's then just consumable via APIs. So when a product or a person or both needs some data for, again, going into building a set of databases or sending out all your connection strings or whatever it is, they can just go and get the piece that they want. That's inclusive of things like secrets, so you can store all of those inside SWEAGLE. You can validate that they are good, bad, or ugly, whichever way you kind of need to. And it's got a very kind of robust access control behind it so that you can give tools that need access to certain sets of config and not access to other parts what they need and not too much without kind of sending security into a bit of a meltdown. And then I just want to stick this slide up. So there's lots of stuff. Secrets seems to come up more and more and more, or at least for me it has kind of exponentially grown over the last 3 weeks. That seems to be a big problem, right? And again, this is something that I don't think is I don't think it's crazy, but there's lots of stuff that we do to help in this space. So if you do decide to take down the trial and give it a play and have a go with it all, it would be interesting to see if you think we're robust enough in this space, if actually there's things that we're missing out on or areas that we're just not seeing. So enough of PowerPoint world. I'll show you the actual product. So SWEAGLE is a software eagle. I think that's where that comes from, if you want to know. It's also part eagle, part owl, because it keeps an eagle eye, but it is also very wise. So there you go. So everything you see here, now in the real world, this is demo land, so this is where you see a UI. In the real world, you probably wouldn't see SWEAGLE at all. It's all driven by APIs in the background. There's loads of them. Everything you see me do here, you can just kick off an API to go and do something. That's fine. The problem with that, for me, is that when I want to show people, and I show them a Jenkins pipeline building and failing, give them an error message because of SWEAGLE, they go, well, Jenkins is stop that, that's great. So, no, this is us. So there's 4 kind of key areas. Firstly, dashboards, just to show how much data you're using. Typically, when we bring data in, so metadata into SWEAGLE, it'll probably reduce by 20 to 30% through consolidation. So we're kind of reducing the number of database ports that you've got that are all the same and running the same different things. We have 4 kind of stages. So incoming will show us incoming changes. So for example, I've got, hopefully this is visible, I can zoom in a little bit more. So for example, in this particular change, I've added 31 new metadata items, so I'm adding new ports, I'm adding new usernames and passwords, whatever. I've updated 61 of them, so from something to something, and I've not deleted anything. So I can come into this change, and I get what we refer to as an evidence-based repository for configuration data change, which is a bit of a mouthful, but basically it's saying who's changed what inside my system, when did they do it, what was it before, what is it now, and as long as I validate okay, i.e. I've not put a load of rubbish in, that will be snapshotted and that becomes today's config data, or this release's config data. So as you can see here, I've got my old values, I've got my new values, and the keys that are associated. So add some rubbish in here, I've removed the rubbish, I've updated the log level, made all of these various changes that are going on here. What that does as a change is actually builds it into a data model. So this is what we refer to as the graph-based data model, and that data model will look something along the lines of this. So this is all just built from a JSON file that I've imported. But essentially, production has got a set assigned of stuff that means it's production. So it's hosted somewhere. These are all the details that it's using. When it comes to things like passwords, for example, the password is encrypted, and you decrypt it, and the thing needs to go use it to go log into whatever it is. When it comes to our test environment, we may find that there's similar configuration between the 2 environments. So actually, we've done some inheritance, which means that all of the stuff in production, all the stuff in test that is the same, we consolidate into a higher level. So the data model it's just an easier way of structuring configuration data, so you can see it, access it, edit it in here if you want. If you couldn't care less for a UI and you just want to update your files and load it in via an API, it's absolutely fine. So We've also then got the ability to go through something called pending and the ability to go through something called storage, but I'll get into that and actually show us doing something. So it's very much a process or a similar process to pulling some code that you want to then go and work on and then you want to go and push back. In this case, I'm going to create myself a new space. I will call this one-handed typing new space. And we've also kind of in the background got a type. Type is a bit like a template that I can follow. So say I'm part of the online banking world, this is my structure that will create me something that looks like an online bank, or the typical configuration of that. These can be set up in whatever names, formats, types that you want. For me, this one just seems kind of pretty relevant. That will, in the background, go and do some lovely stuff for me. So it's creating me some components and environments and infra and release and da-da-da. Again, change that to be whatever you like. And we go through an approval process, basically saying, is that good, bad, is it terrible, is this usable, etc., etc. If the answer is yes, we like it, we will approve it. And these approval gates can be at like various points. It can be at a release, it can be just generally approved if you meet all of your validation rules. If something is a bit, it falls over a lot, or people keep breaking it for whatever reason, maybe you put some more rigorous access as to who can change some of this data that people are consuming. But if we take our new space, I have got here somewhere just a little config file. Now this is just a relatively typical JSON file with artifacts, environments, and just config data in it. Again, this can be in pretty much any format. We refer to ourselves as an agnostic repository. Now, okay, I've been around for 3 weeks, so maybe not the expert, but I'm told that we've not come across stuff that we can't ingest, which is interesting. So again, if you think you've got something that you think is config data and would be good to manage, it'd be interesting to see if we can break it. So in this case, I'm just going to upload this JSON file. It's got all sorts of properties in it, etc., etc. That goes and uploads. As long as the JSON is valid, it will tell me here if I've, again, done something silly. And now I've got my config that's not in a file anymore. It's now in a data model. It's not a database per se that I can go and play around with. And when I say play around, I can use SWEAGLE to edit it, or I could edit it via another file and upload it, etc., etc. For the moment, whilst this is doing its approvals, like so, we'll look at some of the validations that we actually kick off. So we validate basically using JavaScript for the moment. So you can write any type of validation really that you want, as long as it's in JavaScript. So we've got some stuff that check for non-encrypted passwords. So if you've got a config item that's called password or pass or PWD or secret or whatever, to check, we'll just go and look for that. So when it comes to, say, this particular metadata set, I know that hiding in here somewhere probably is a password or not, and I can go and check my code to make sure that that data hasn't got something that's not secure inside of it. Okay? I can, of course, use SWEAGLE to come in and edit any of these bits and pieces if I want to. So if I need to come in and decide that, it's now this. Okay. Some of this is just rubbish that is purposely broken, so it fails during the demo, which is nice. But say we find a password, that's not encrypted, we come in and encrypt those values, and then upon somebody with relevant permissions, they can decrypt that as that API needs it, etc., etc. And the final piece that we'll do as part of that is we'll approve it, we'll snapshot it. And what snapshotting is basically going through SWEAGLE's ability to validate it, or your rules that you've set up to validate it. So these guys are all green, which is pretty good, which means that I've not got anything in there that's really bad, but I may have some custom validations that kick off, like that password, for example, where I know that I've got a plain text password or something that isn't encrypted. So, as expected, things go red because there are errors. What that means is that I can come in and review what those errors are and actually start to understand, well, in this case I've got 2, so my debug is incorrect, and I've got an unencrypted password that's held against a test environment, so okay, I'm going to go and fix that sort of stuff. This becomes, I think, particularly useful if we actually start storing a few snapshots here. and say, you know, although they're technically broken, it doesn't matter, this is what our config data looks like today. It's good for actually saying, well, somebody's put in a new release, it's gone through and everything seems pretty good until it gets into UAT where it's fallen over. Can you show me the difference in configuration between yesterday pre-release and today post-release? And we give essentially the analytics to say, for my environments, for example, I've got production and test. I'm going to see what was in production as of yesterday. So I've got my history here. And I can say it was valid as of 9:41 versus 10:48. It'll do my analysis and say, well, these things were deleted, so I had 4 deletions, I had 6 modifications, and 18 new things were introduced. So when it comes to actually debugging what's causing this to run so slow, or what's actually changed across my environment set, something that's kind of pretty easy to either rule configuration data out being the key problem, or potentially being the thing that actually goes and finds it. The final piece that we do is obviously offer this out as a set of APIs, so when you want to come and export some data to go consume somewhere, it's all kind of pretty easy. So in this case, this is my production configuration that's been built out, and I'm kind of happy with that. If I don't want that JSON format, I want it in YAML, or I want it in XML, or the properties file, etc., you can go and do it. Or if you've got something that's slightly weird, you can build your own templates. So bring it out so it looks like this. So it's, for example, YAML is always a pretty good example. Typically, whilst that is a YAML format, things want more details behind it, they want more layers. So you can build your own template so that you get the config data out from the tooling or the person or the thing that is to actually go consume it. That's just then a standard API, go call it, go get that data, go give it to whoever you want. In terms of actually using this, it's pretty, so far I think it's pretty solid in terms of how it works. There's loads and loads and loads and loads and loads of different calls that you can do to make this as automated and kind of better, hopefully, than you're managing configuration at the moment without calling anyone's baby over, of course. So I've tried to go through that as quickly, I guess, as I possibly can. Really to kind of, I guess, get to just the last couple of slides just to talk you through. So when it comes to SWEAGLE, this is what it does. So collect, consolidate, learn, change, approve, validate, snapshot, and then give it back to you in a hopefully easier to consume, nicer to digest format. There's lots of analytics to help debug problems. There's hopefully a nicer way of being able to manage configuration data, etc., etc. And as per this slide, there is a trial that's going on at the moment. So if you would like to give it a try, see if it's something that is useful to you, your organisation, or just generally, go for it. Like I say, you would have to put the details in, but it would be me who might give you a call or drop you an email just saying, who are you, basically? What's going on? Why is this interesting to you? Because as a new org, we're just trying to, I guess, find our feet a little bit and understand why we think this is so good to you guys and make sure that you guys agree. So that's it, that's SWEAGLE. Any questions, anything you want to ask? I'm more than happy to answer some questions. We'll try to.
So I have 2 questions. One, do you have some templating actions? For example, a small example. I have a server XML, which I like to use in every environment, but the database passwords are different. So I like to somehow cover it with the passwords and eventually the generated configs.
Yes.
And after that, my second question is, how can you fit it in one orchestration tool or whatever? For example, I create every configs and whatever, how can I put it into, for example, Kubernetes or Terraform or whatever?
Yeah. There was a point about multi-questions at the beginning, wasn't there? So yes, there's templates. So to make that process of I've got the same XML file in lots of different places, but we've got different passwords here and here and here. So there's a token system or a variable system inside SWEAGLE whereby essentially you can put in your own references to say, for this thing, we need to go and use this thing, and for this thing, we go and use this thing. Most of the default stuff that we have is currently on SWEAGLE Experts Git, so you can go up and have a look and see what's up there just to give you a feel for that. But yeah, you can handle it inside. The problem with showing things, say, for example, like Jenkins using SWEAGLE, is that you don't see SWEAGLE. And so when it comes as part of like an automated pipe, and we block something because we've found a password that's not encrypted, we say, ping out an email to somebody or stick it on a Slack channel and say, this build failed because of this particular problem with config. And then once you fix that problem, you kick your pipe off again and it goes through. Nobody's ever seen SWEAGLE, right? So we found this doing a proof of concept recently that at the end, we didn't show anything, we just showed the Jenkins pipe working, we kept trying to break it and showing that, when we broke it. So when it comes to how do things consume it, we're just an open platform. So you just come and call the stuff you want, as long as you've got access to it, we'll give you the stuff that you want. And if you want to update things as they're changing, you just get things to push it into us. So at the moment we haven't got you can't go searching for things without writing stuff. So we need things to come and ask us for something, and then we'll give it back, basically. Makes sense?
Awesome, Ben. Thank you very much.